The first time I witnessed the Galactic Council, I thought I was dreaming. 94 species, each with their own delegates, translators, and cultural attaches, all gathered in a chamber that defied the laws of physics as humans understood them. The central chamber appeared impossibly vast from the inside, while maintaining modest dimensions from without. A spatial paradox that had me questioning my sanity during my first week as Earth's unofficial observer. My name is Aaliyah Roan. I was 32 years old when I became humanity's sole witness to its own condemnation. The human appears disoriented, remarked Counselor Vextra, a being composed of crystalline structures that refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. Her voice, or what the translator rendered as a female voice, carried that particular tone of amusement reserved for watching lesser creatures stumble about in confusion. I assure you, Counselor, I am merely taking in the architectural marvel of your chamber, I replied with practiced diplomacy. 6 months of intensive training hadn't prepared me for this moment, but I'd be damned if I let them see me falter. The council chamber housed representatives from civilizations that had mastered space travel millennia ago. Some had evolved beyond physical form entirely, manifesting as controlled energy fields or holographic projections. Others remained stubbornly corporeal, though often in configurations that made human physiology seem like a child's crude drawing. Among them all, I was the only human, the sole representative of a species that hadn't yet been officially recognized. Earth held observer status only. We lacked the interstellar capabilities required for full membership, but our rapid technological development had caught the Council's attention. I'd been sent to learn, to observe, and to begin building diplomatic bridges for humanity's eventual acceptance into the galactic community. Or so we thought. Shall we proceed with Vote 842? Announced the Grand Arbiter, a towering aquatic being whose translucent skin revealed a complex network of pulsing organs. The classification of Sol 3, locally designated Earth. My heart sank. This wasn't on the agenda. Observer missions didn't include planetary classification reviews. I stood from my isolated viewing platform, raising my hand in the Earth gesture for attention. Point of order, Grand Arbiter. Earth's delegation was not informed of this vote. As the appointed observer, I request clarification on the parameters being considered. A ripple of what I interpreted as laughter moved through the chamber. The Zarnith delegate, a sentient fungal colony, released spores that darkened to a deep purple, their equivalent of a dismissive snort. The human speaks as if it has standing, the Zarnith delegate said. How quaint. The Grand Arbiter's gill slits pulsed with indigo light. Observer Roan, your presence here is a courtesy. Earth has no voting rights nor procedural standing. The classification of your planet has always been the purpose of today's session. I felt my mouth go dry. I was not briefed on this. An oversight, said Vextra, though her crystalline structure vibrated in a pattern I'd come to recognize as satisfaction. Regrettable, but irrelevant to our proceedings. What classification is being considered? I managed to ask, my voice steady despite the unease growing in my gut. Sol 3 has demonstrated unusual development patterns, began a Korthax military representative, Admiral Sorek. His exoskeleton clicked as he manipulated the holographic display. Their technological progress has accelerated at a concerning rate, particularly their weapons systems and information technology. Images of Earth's history flashed in the central display. Our wars, our nuclear tests, our environmental damage, all presented without context. Despite this, continued Sorek, their sociological development lags behind. They remain fragmented into nation-states. They still wage war on themselves. They prioritize individual gain over collective welfare. I opened my mouth to object, to provide context, but no sound was permitted from my platform. I realized with horror that my communication systems had been disabled. Vextra rose, her crystalline form catching the light dramatically. Colleagues, we have studied Earth for 3 of their centuries. They are resourceful, adaptable, and remarkably resilient. These qualities make them uniquely suited for labor category classification. My blood ran cold. I propose, Vextra continued, that Sol, 3 humans be classified as grade 9 labor species, with immediate resource harvesting to commence within 1 standard rotation. Grade 9 labor species. Even with my limited understanding of council terminology, I knew what that meant. Slavery. They were voting to enslave humanity. The proposal has been made, the Grand Arbiter announced. Council members will now vote. I stood frozen as the voting commenced. One by one, the representatives of 94 advanced civilizations raised their appendages, illuminated their consent fields, or otherwise signaled their approval. Not a single objection. Not one voice of dissent. The Zarnith delegate turned what passed for a face in my direction. Look at it, he said to his neighboring representative. It still doesn't understand what's happening. But I understood perfectly. I was watching the unanimous condemnation of my species to servitude, democratically approved by the so-called enlightened civilizations of the galaxy. Vote 842 records unanimous consent, declared the Grand Arbiter. Earth is hereby classified as a grade 9 labor species, effective immediately. Resource acquisition teams will deploy within the cycle. As the council erupted in satisfied murmurs, I felt a single tear trace down my cheek. Not from sadness or fear, but from pure, distilled rage. You've made a mistake, I said quietly, though I knew no one was listening. A terrible mistake. The Vextra delegate floated past my platform as the session adjourned. Don't worry, human. Your kind will adapt to serving. It's what lesser species do. She paused, her crystalline form vibrating in what my translator rendered as laughter. Besides, it was a fair vote. Unanimous. The galaxy has spoken. I looked directly into what I guessed were her sensory nodes. So has Earth, Counselor. You just haven't been listening. My emergency transmitter was still functional. As the council disbanded, I sent a single encrypted message to Earth Command. Apocalypse Protocol confirmed. They voted. Unanimous. The response came almost instantly. Understood. Return immediately. Shiva wakens. Shiva, the destroyer of worlds. Our last resort defense strategy that even I had been briefed on only in the vaguest terms. I felt a cold comfort knowing it existed. The first invasion fleet arrived in Earth's orbit 72 hours after the council vote. Massive ships, each capable of devastating a continent, positioned themselves strategically around the planet. Their commanders transmitted the expected ultimatum: surrender or be subjugated by force. Earth's unified response was broadcast on all frequencies, in all languages, and through the communication protocols I had secretly provided to our defense forces. We decline your offer. We will not surrender. We will not be enslaved. We will not fall. You have been warned. The Korthax commander of the lead vessel, Admiral Sorek himself, reportedly laughed at the message. His first wave of ships began their descent toward major population centers. None reached their destinations. Unknown to the Council, humanity had been preparing for this possibility ever since we detected their observation probes centuries ago. While they studied us, we studied them back. Every piece of alien technology that malfunctioned and crashed on Earth had been meticulously reverse-engineered. Every communication signal had been analyzed and decrypted. The invasion ships suddenly lost power midway through Earth's atmosphere. Their navigation systems redirected them to empty deserts and ocean locations where specialized containment fields waited. Within hours, 27 advanced warships had been captured intact, their crews incapacitated by targeted electromagnetic pulses calibrated specifically to their biology. I learned all this upon my return to Earth. I was immediately taken to the underground command center, where Secretary General Hassan waited with grim satisfaction. They thought we were primitive, he said, gesturing to the screens showing captured alien vessels. They never considered that we might have been playing a very long game. Dr. Winsu, our leading xenotechnologist, approached with a tablet displaying streams of alien code. We've accessed their systems. Their encryption was actually quite simple once we understood the mathematical principles. They never expected to need strong security against primitives. She swiped across the screen. More importantly, we now have access to their communication network. We can send authenticated messages that appear to come from Council authorities. The Secretary General turned to me. Aaliyah, you're the only human who's been inside their council. We need to know everything. Every species, every weakness, every grudge and political division you observed. I spent the next 48 hours in debriefing, explaining the complex web of alliances, ancient rivalries, and political vulnerabilities I'd observed during my time at the Council. Armed with this information and access to the Council's own communication systems, Earth launched its counterattack. It wasn't missiles or bombs that we deployed. It was information. To 20 of the most recently admitted Council species, we sent evidence, some real, some fabricated, that the Grade 9 classification was actually a prelude to their own eventual reclassification. To older members with historical grievances, we sent leaked Council discussions about resource redistribution that would disadvantage them. To the spiritually oriented species, we transmitted ancient Earth philosophical texts that questioned the morality of enslavement, carefully translated to resonate with their specific cultural values. Within a week, the unified Council response had fractured. Several species withdrew from the invasion force, citing internal matters. Others demanded emergency Council sessions to review the classification system entirely. Meanwhile, Earth forces, now equipped with captured alien technology, launched their own ships into space. Not to attack, but to establish a defensive perimeter and to broadcast a simple message throughout the galaxy. Humanity rejects the authority of the current Galactic Council. We call upon all species who value true liberty to withdraw from this corrupt institution. The classification system ends now, or those who supported it will face the consequences of their choice. Admiral Sorek's flagship was the first major casualty of the conflict, though no weapons were fired. His vessel simply stopped responding to commands, locked all escape pods, and began broadcasting detailed logs of Korthak atrocities against other species over the past millennium. By the time Earth forces boarded the ship, the Admiral was willing to surrender in exchange for simply keeping these revelations from spreading further. How? He demanded as I personally accepted his surrender. How did primitives like you bypass our security so completely? I smiled. You classified us as laborers, Admiral. You should have checked what kind of labor we excel at. Information systems, pattern recognition, creative problem solving. These are human specialties. While you were studying our weapons, we were learning how you think. The Admiral's exoskeleton paled to a sickly yellow. The Council will never surrender to a labor species. The humiliation alone. Humiliation is preferable to extinction, I replied. A lesson humanity learned long ago. Back on Earth, Dr. Wensu had achieved the seemingly impossible. Using components from captured vessels combined with Earth's quantum computing technology, she had created what she called a phase-inverse gateway, a device that could selectively disrupt the exotic matter shields protecting Council worlds. We don't need to use it, she explained during the emergency meeting of Earth's Unified Defense Council. The threat alone should be sufficient. We can demonstrate it on an uninhabited moon if they require proof. Secretary General Hassan looked troubled. We're talking about threatening entire civilizations. Billions of sentient beings. They threatened us first, General Park reminded him. Unanimously. I raised my hand. There's another way. The Council values procedure and precedent above all else. We can use that against them. Within days, an emergency session of the Galactic Council was convened. Unlike my previous appearance, this time I didn't attend as a mere observer. Earth vessels now surrounded the Council station. Our newly commissioned diplomatic ship, Phoenix, docked directly at the main ambassador's port, a privilege reserved for founding species. The Council chamber fell silent as I walked in, not to the observer's platform, but directly onto the central speaking floor. I wore a simple black uniform bearing the new insignia of the Earth Defense Force, a phoenix rising from planetary flames. Aaliyah Roan, the Grand Arbiter acknowledged, his tone considerably less imperious than before. You appear before this council without proper authorization. I appear before this council as the designated representative of Earth, I corrected. A planet you recently classified without proper consultation or consent. Vextra's crystalline form dimmed noticeably. Observer status does not confer. Earth no longer recognizes observer status. I interrupted. Nor do we recognize the authority of this council as currently constituted. Murmurs spread throughout the chamber. The Zarnith delegate's spores had turned a pale, fearful white. You have no standing here, Admiral Sorek's replacement insisted, though his mandibles clicked nervously. I smiled. On the contrary, according to Council Procedural Statute 15.3, any species subjected to emergency classification is entitled to petition for review. I am here to submit that petition. A review requires a council vote, the Grand Arbiter said, given the unanimity of the previous decision. Let me be clear, I cut in. This is not a request. It is a notification. Earth rejects your classification system entirely. We have already demonstrated our capacity to neutralize your military assets. We have accessed your secure communications. We have technology capable of bypassing your defensive shields. I pressed a button on my wrist device and the central holographic display activated. It showed a small, uninhabited moon in the SETI system suddenly rippling like disturbed water before a section simply vanished, leaving a perfect hemispherical void. That was a limited demonstration of what Dr. Wensu calls the phase inverse gateway. It selectively removes matter from our universe. The technology can be targeted with precision or deployed on a planetary scale. The chamber erupted in panic. Several delegates began shouting demands for immediate military response. Others called for my arrest. The Grand Arbiter pounded his hydrostatic gavel. Order. We will have order. When silence finally fell, I continued. Earth does not desire conflict. We desire recognition and respect. We propose the immediate dissolution of the species classification system and the establishment of a new cooperative galactic alliance based on principles of equity and self-determination. Preposterous, shouted a Medusan delegate. The classification system has maintained order for millennia. It has maintained exploitation, I corrected. And that ends today. Each species represented here has one standard rotation to formally withdraw from the current council and declare support for the new alliance. Those who do will be welcomed as equals. Those who do not. I let the silence hang heavy in the chamber. You wouldn't, Vextra said, her voice barely audible. Your species claims to value life. We do, I agreed, which is why we won't destroy your worlds or harm your populations. Instead, for any species that voted for our enslavement and refuses to join the new alliance, we will simply restrict your technology. I activated another display showing the crystalline homeworld of Vextra species. Our phase technology can be calibrated to disable specific technological systems while leaving life support intact. Your civilizations will survive, but you'll experience what you planned for us, life without self-determination. This is blackmail, hissed the Grand Arbiter. This is consequence, I corrected. Every species in this chamber voted unanimously to enslave Earth. Now every species will unanimously vote for freedom or experience what they would have imposed on others. I stepped back from the central position. You have one rotation to decide. Earth awaits your response. I turned and walked out of the chamber, ignoring the chaos erupting behind me. Back aboard the Phoenix, Secretary General Hassan contacted me immediately. Did they believe the threat? They did, I confirmed. Though the phase inverse gateway demonstration was convincing, it was their own guilt that truly terrified them. They know what they intended for us, and they cannot bear the thought of experiencing the same fate. Within 12 hours, 17 species had already withdrawn from the Council and requested admission to the proposed alliance. By the end of the standard rotation, the number had risen to 63. What about the others? General Park asked during our strategy session. They're waiting to see if we'll follow through, I explained. The older, founding species especially. Their pride won't allow them to capitulate so easily. Dr. Wensu cleared her throat. About that, the phase inverse gateway can actually do what we claimed. The demonstration was a controlled nuclear detonation behind a holographic shield. We don't have the technology to selectively disable planetary systems. Secretary General Hassan looked alarmed. So, our threat is empty? Not exactly, Dr. Wen replied with a small smile. While studying their networks, we discovered something interesting. All Council species use a standardized communication protocol for their essential systems. We can't disable their technology directly, but we can transmit a virus that will gradually degrade their capabilities over time. Not enough to threaten lives, but enough to demonstrate our seriousness. I considered this. Deploy it to a single system first. Let's show them we're serious without causing widespread harm. The Korthax homeworld was selected for the first demonstration, a choice influenced by their leading role in the invasion fleet. Within days, their automated defense systems began malfunctioning. Transportation networks experienced mysterious delays. Communication became unreliable. The remaining holdouts got the message. Within another rotation, all but 2 species had withdrawn from the old council and requested alliance membership. The founding ceremony of the new Cooperative Galactic Alliance was held on neutral space, aboard a massive station constructed hastily using recovered alien technology combined with human innovation. Representatives from all former council species attended, this time as equals. I stood at the central podium, now designated as the Alliance's first moderator, a temporary position I had accepted reluctantly. Today marks a new beginning. I address the assembled delegates, not just for humanity, but for all sentient species. The old hierarchies are gone. The classification system that determined worth based on technology or biological development has been dismantled. In its place, we establish a covenant of equals. The Zarnith delegate, whose spores now maintained a respectful amber hue, approached the speaking position after I finished. The Zarnith Collective wishes to formally apologize to the human species, the delegate announced, surprising everyone. Our arrogance led us to support your enslavement. When faced with the same prospect, we discovered the value of freedom. We have much to learn from humans, it seems. I nodded in acknowledgement. Apology accepted. The purpose of our response was never vengeance, but education. The strongest civilizations aren't those with the most advanced weapons, but those with the most advanced ethics. After the ceremony, Vextra approached me privately. Her crystalline structure vibrated with complex patterns I couldn't interpret. You bluffed, she said quietly. The phase technology. It couldn't do what you claimed. I met her gaze steadily. Does it matter? The outcome is the same. It matters because it reveals something about humans that our centuries of observation missed. You fight not just with technology, but with psychology, with stories and symbols. Her form shimmered. It's impressive. Thank you, I replied. Though I hope we can move beyond impressiveness to mutual respect. Vextra's crystals aligned in what I now recognized as a gesture of acknowledgement. The Crystalline Consortium formally requests alliance membership. We submit our application with humility. I couldn't help but smile slightly. Good, you're learning. In the weeks that followed, the new alliance began the complex work of establishing cooperative protocols rather than hierarchical ones. Earth shared some of its unique technologies, while gaining access to the knowledge of civilizations thousands of years more advanced. The 2 species that had refused to join eventually requested admission after witnessing the economic and social benefits alliance members enjoyed. Admiral Sorek, now serving as a military liaison rather than a conqueror, approached me during a diplomatic reception 6 months after the alliance founding. I still don't understand, he admitted, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. How did a species with such limited space capability defeat 94 advanced civilizations without firing a shot? I considered his question carefully. You all made the same mistake. You saw our divisions and conflicts as weakness. You never considered that a species that survived its own destructive tendencies might have developed unique strengths, such as adaptability, creativity, and most importantly, the ability to learn from our mistakes. I sipped my drink. Humanity nearly destroyed itself multiple times. Each time, we pulled back from the brink and asked ourselves, How do we ensure this never happens again? Sorek's compound eyes seemed to study me with new interest. And what was the answer? That no system of control is sustainable. That freedom cannot be selectively applied. That the moment you classify any sentient being as less deserving of dignity, you create the conditions for your own eventual subjugation. I set down my glass. The Council's classification system was always going to collapse. We just accelerated the inevitable. And what prevents this new alliance from eventually becoming what the Council was? He asked. I smiled. Vigilance, transparency, and the knowledge that somewhere in the galaxy, there's always another species watching, learning, and preparing to hold you accountable. The final report I submitted to Earth's government ended with a personal observation. The unanimous vote to enslave humanity revealed not our weakness, but the fundamental flaw in the Council's understanding of strength. They mistook our ethical debates for indecision, our diversity for division, our self-criticism for vulnerability. In reaching for the stars, humanity carried with it not just its technology, but its hard-won wisdom. That true civilization begins with the recognition of universal dignity. We nearly lost this principle many times in our bloody history, but we always reclaimed it. The new alliance represents not humanity's victory over alien oppression, but the victory of an idea that humans have died for repeatedly throughout our history. That freedom is not negotiable, that dignity is not hierarchical, and that any system that classifies sentient beings as inherently superior or inferior contains the seeds of its own destruction. They voted unanimously to enslave us. We taught them unanimously that true cooperation cannot be built on subjugation. In the end, we freed not just ourselves, but all of them as well. That is humanity's true gift to the galaxy. 1 year after the Council's dissolution, I returned to Earth for a brief respite from my diplomatic duties. Standing on a beach in New Zealand, watching the sunset over waters that had witnessed the entire human journey, I found myself wondering what would have happened if the vote had gone differently. If even one species had objected to our enslavement. Perhaps then we would have found allies rather than adversaries. Perhaps we would have joined the galactic community gradually, with dignity intact. But then again, perhaps the old injustices would have continued for countless other species. Perhaps the classification system would have persisted for millennia more. Perhaps our greatest contribution was not our technology or our diplomacy, but our refusal to accept an unjust order. My communication device chimed, indicating an incoming message from Alliance headquarters. The Zarnith Collective was submitting a proposal for joint human-Zarnith cultural exchange programs. Their message began with a formal acknowledgement. We continue to learn from our human colleagues about the value of diversity and self-determination. I smiled to myself. Good, I whispered to the setting sun. They're still learning. Behind me, Earth continued its ancient rotation, now as the homeworld of the species that had changed the course of galactic history not through superior firepower, but through the power of an idea. That freedom, once tasted, becomes non-negotiable. And somewhere in the vast chamber of the new alliance, 94 species now work together as equals, perhaps the most unanimous vote the galaxy had ever truly needed.